This video ranks every viable TH13 attack strategy from worst to best. It's also my birthday today, but let's get you to the tier list. Starting us in the F tier is the Go Wipe, the Triple Clone Hydra, the Yeti Smash, and the P.E.K.K.A Smash, all of which just get completely outclassed by better options in this tier list. Next up is the D tier. This is slightly better than the F tier, but not by much. So staying within the D tier is the Super Dragons. So despite the defensive nerf, the Super Dragon still remains the same. They're just too weak ever since they got previously nerfed in the past. Another strategy staying in D tier is the Dragbat. Similar to the Super Dragons, Dragbat just thins out a little too quickly. Nothing really has changed other than the fact that it's just really not as good as other bat spell attacks later on. The Blizzard Hydra is moving from the C tier down into the D tier. With the Blizzard Hydra, this strategy just is getting completely behind other more niche options, as they basically can do its job better and without having the dragons thin out as quickly. Next is the C tier. These are strategies that are a bit niche but can be mastered in those niches and be really strong. So staying within the C tier, we have the Skelly Donut Lalo. Unlike all of the other strategies, this one looks for two very specific things within close proximity, usually being the CC and another important defense. If you can't get it, then this strategy kind of struggles, but if you get it, it can be a master at this niche, which is why it's pretty base dependent. The Queen Charge Dragon Riders is going from the B tier down into the C tier. Unlike a Lavaloon, the Dragon Riders don't tend to have as much flexibility. With the Lavaloon, you have a lot more troops and you have some spells to support them. With Dragon Riders, you don't need it, but it's not as potent or strong, since the Queen Charge has to get a large chunk of the base. So this is really base dependent, as sometimes you're not going to be able to charge and get nearly as much as you need. Next is the B tier. These are good attack strategies. They can be used on a decent amount of bases, though they are not as good or as flexible as the A and S tier. Staying within the B tier is the Zap Lavaloon. The Zap Lalo is staying pretty comfortable, as it's a really flexible strategy for a B tier army. While it won't work on every base, it has its use cases where you can zap out the queen in another defense, maybe an important defense alone, and using your heroes to go in for other buildings and get a massive amount of value with the log launcher. The Super Archer Blimp Hydra is moving from the A tier down into the B tier. The Super Archer Blimp Hydra is a pretty solid army, but it definitely does lack, considering it can be countered quite easily if you don't get nearly as much value. The dragons still technically do need spells, and this strategy can be relatively difficult if you already use your heroes or you don't have your Grand Warden. Also, a new strategy that is landing itself in the B tier is the IC5. IC5 sits pretty comfortably, mostly because it's a really simple strategy. It's really good, and while it's not super flexible, it has a lot of bases that it can work against. Even if there is one multi-target Inferno, this strategy eats through them, consistently being one of the better bat spell attacks that you can use. Next, we move into the A tier. These are very strong options, and while they might not be flexible against every base, they are very, very good to use. So staying within the A tier, we have the Electro Dragons. The Electro Dragons are a pretty solid unit right now, not only being quite good to pair up with the use of a Super Minion Super Wizard Blimp. It allows you to get a large amount of value in that sense, and allowing your heroes to basically wrap up the rest of the base. The Super Barch is going from S tier down into the A tier. Since the bug fix to the blimp got patched up, this strategy definitely isn't nearly as strong. However, it can still be used on a lot of different base types. It will just get better at higher town levels, considering pets are an option. Likewise, the Super Archer Blimp Lalo is also going down from the S tier to the A tier. The Super Archer Blimp Lalo has the same fate as the Super Barch, though the difference is you don't have enough spells to support your Lavaloon. So if you fail with the Super Archer Blimp, you fail with your heroes, the Lavaloon won't get nearly as much. So it is going to be pretty solid, but not nearly better than other options in the S tier. The Super Witch Smash is also falling out of the S tier down into the A tier. The Super Witches really haven't changed all too much, but they do have the more liability of being countered since the scatter shots can get rid of healers or the Super Witches just being really slow. So there are different situations where this might not be the case, but Super Witches aren't nearly as consistent as what they used to be. And another new strategy that is landing itself in the A tier, which is the Yeti Witch attack. The Yeti Witch is just an all-around great synergy, having so many spawnables from the Yeti mites and the skeletons that it's really easy. This can work really well on a wide variety of different bases, especially since it's quite flexible for an A tier option, since you have bats, you have earthquake, you have a smash, making it a pretty solid choice. And next is the S tier. These are the best of the best strategies. You can use them against any base design and they're really flexible. So staying within the S tier is the Queen Charge Hybrid. The Queen Charge Hybrid has just always been an incredibly good option, and since you're not forced to just use a Siege Barrack, it's extremely flexible and you could use any siege machine and hit any base with this strategy. Also staying in the S tier is the Queen Charge Super Hogs. Super Hogs were already pretty good, and since they nerfed the DPS of a lot of different defenses, this just makes them better since the charges have gotten way better thanks to the defensive nerf, and it just makes Super Hogs a more likely option. Another strategy that is staying in S tier is the Blizzard Lalo. The Blizzard Lalo has often been considered to be one of the best strategies at Town Hall 13. Despite the patch to the blimp, it's still incredibly good. I mean, Town Hall 13 cannot stop the Blizzard Lalo. It's incredibly easy to use as a lava balloon attack, and it can be really dang strong and super flexible depending on the base that you're seeing. Now, the Super Bowler Smash is working its way from A tier up into the S tier. If there was one smash attack I'd recommend, the Super Bowler Smash has to be it. There are a lot of different variations from the use of recall, and of course using the traditional. You have access to using multiple different siege machines that can fit your playstyle, thus making it a very solid and very flexible smash attack. And at long last, the Queen Charge Lalo is moving from the A tier, finally, to the S tier. The Queen Charge Lalo just is one of the best strategies in the entire game. Since you can realistically use this with most siege machines, you can hit any base, it's extremely flexible in that sense. The only thing is, it's just going to be a little bit tougher for a casual player to get into. But when you start to master the strategy over time, it can be incredibly busted. As realistically, the Queen Charge doesn't even have to go in for that much, and you can use other seed machines to help with this. And of course, the Lava Loon itself is just going to be able to smash through since you have the Grand Warden and spells available to support, making this an incredibly good option on a lot of different situations. And here is your Town Hall 13 tier list going into 2024.